Hi, I'm back again with another update on my 2006 Chevy Impala SS restoration update. And what you're looking at here is front subframe rails that have been married up and welded to the center cross member support, and it's also provides mounting provision for the front powertrain. And this assembly here is actually a built-up assembly. It's made out of about, I don't know, 7 pieces or so, and it's all been built back up. And also I had to do some build-up work on the subframe rails. But anyway, as you can see now, the whole thing it's married up as a unit. Basically, it makes a big letter H. I've got the body itself jacked way up high, and I got the whole thing sitting underneath it. And before I could do this, I had a lot of work to do on these subframe rails and stuff I already talked about, like added some threaded inserts for mounting points, upgrades there, stainless. Another threaded insert there, studs to mount something there. Here's some studs here. This is for a remote oil filter receptacle. It's going to go there. That's my own little addition. Goes on those 3 studs there. And then I had to build up the inside of these frame rails. They have inserts that go inside there for reinforcement, and those didn't come with it. I had to put them on there. Let's see if we can get a look at things over here. So each side has its own. There's an inner, and then there's a surface. All had to be welded to they fit channel inside channel and had to all be welded. There's where the welds burn through on the outside. I don't care about refinishing those. That can happen later, but everything on the inside had to be refinished. And this green stuff that you see in there that just looks like modern art, that's my frame shot. That's to finish out all the internal areas where anything got burned, and it's got to be finished out inside of there. So this is all done in separate layers and separate steps. You got to weld this in first, refinish everything, weld this on next, and like inside of here, well, I don't know if you can see it, the cage nuts that go inside of there, and that's all been re-welded and finished on there. And it was a real good thing I got to those cage nuts before they got too rusty, and they've all been cleaned up good as new. And you got another cage nut right there, and that moves. Oh, what do you know? I gotta break it loose anyway. And I put a bunch of. Is this one moving? Yeah. Gotta break the other one loose. I put a ton of that frame shot in there. Anyway, no problem. So you got the same. This whole thing has been built up and just shot all inside of all of the. The insides of these welds, you have to get your snorkel in through there, and just make sure all that stuff's coated like crazy in there. So same thing over here. These bare spots, what you see here, that's going to mate up to those holes. I just did all these. There's a wire brush on a drill that I use for that, and you can see there's gonna be welds there and everything. But getting back to all the buildup on here on the inside, everything's been frame shot. This plastic piece, this reinforcement, I buttered that up with adhesive, hammered it in there till it's wedged nice and tight. That's all glued in there, and that's all good to go. By the way, that adhesive that I used in there to glue that piece in there, and that's this stuff here. And I got two different versions of this adhesive. One they call universal adhesive, and the other one they call panel bonding adhesive. And these have different properties. They have different work times. You got 3 minutes of work time and 4 hours cure time. And the panel adhesive, you have a lot longer work time, 90 minutes and 24 hours on cure time. And I used the panel bonding adhesive inside of here. I talked about that before. And I just realized something I discovered, just noticed it. These two products are actually the same thing. The only difference is the amount of hardener. And what they are, they're a two-piece. You use this double barrel caulking gun, and you load that double cartridge in there because it's two parts. They mix together. There's a tube, a gun tube that mixes it together that you screw onto the end of that there. Anyhow, one's a resin, one's a hardener. Well, the one that has the faster curing time, both barrels are the same size. The one with the slower curing time, the hardener barrel, is only half the size of the resin barrel, and that's all they did. It's the same. Okay, they're using the same resin, and they just give you a smaller quantity of the hardener, and then that makes it cure more slowly, and this is the one that gives you the long work time. So anyway, I use this on that plastic reinforcement. You just butter it up real good with this stuff and hurry up and hammer it in there, and they tell you here you got 3 minutes to get it in place. So this is basically the same stuff, but it's fast cure. So it's for something where you're not going to need a long time to get it in position. You can throw it right on, and you want it to grab quickly. And this is the same stuff, but you want it to cure more slowly. You need time to get it in place and make sure everything's right. So it gives you the time. That's all they do with that. So that's good to know. So anyways, getting back to this here. As you can see, I've just made a big sub-assembly out of the two rails. And oh yeah, by the way, here's another piece. The extension, it goes on there and finishes it out. It comes to all the way back here. And so these holes line up with those holes, and this doesn't have holes on it because it's new, so I already have it all fitted in place, and I've marked all the positions with a Sharpie, and then took the paint off of there so I can weld. So what's got to happen is each one of those is going to appear on the other side of that hole, and it gets welded back into place from the inside, from above. But anyways, this whole thing has to be sub-assembled before it goes on there, because the reason this centerpiece, it joins up with the rails from underneath. So you've got the rail above, and you set this in underneath, and then you have places where welds are made. The light. So you've got places, a whole bunch of welds that were made there, spot welds that have been filled in, a whole bunch of welds that were made there, some welds that were made there. So that joins it up from the outside. And same thing over here, a whole bunch of welds made there. You can see where I've shot it full of the green stuff on the inside of that joint, and then just wiped it off, because this whole thing's going to get refinished with silver slather coat when it's all done. Once it's all welded together, and that's going to be when the body's completely back together. So you can see where I made all those welds and attached it from the outside. But the thing is, it has welds that must be made from the inside too. So there's welds. There's welds right there, and right there. and the same thing on the other side. So there's a series of welds there, there, and there. And these welds are inaccessible. You have to make these welds, you know, they have to be made before you can put this, you know. So the whole thing, you can't join it to the body until after these welds are made. So the whole thing has to be put together as a big sub-assembly, and I can tell the way they did that at the factory was, you know, obviously they have a fixture that can hold all these in precise alignment, precise position, and when it's clamped up in that fixture, it'll all be accurate, and then they can take these sub-assemblies and just run them up to each individual body and throw it in there, and it's going to fit. It's going to make all of the necessary, you know, fitment, and it's going to be accurate. And I can't do that here. I can't just throw this thing on the ground and weld it together and hope it ends up accurate, because it ain't gonna. That's just not going to happen. So what I did was, first thing is you take each one of these rails and you mount them in place to the body and clamp them. And then you take the entire, everything, all of the tubs, core support, and all the other parts, and you mock them all up to what you're looking at up here. And I don't know, the light's probably getting in your way, but okay, so everything was in place because all of that stuff has to join to the front of these rails. There's all these parts come down and join to the front of these rails. So basically, I have to mock up the whole front end, the entire thing with clamps, and get both of these frame rails clamped in place. And then when I'm absolutely sure I've got both of these rails located, then it's time to raise the cross member up in place and make sure that it's got its alignment, because I've got holes here that preserve the alignment. So that's all, that's reference for me right there. So what basically I did was this whole assembly and everything else associated with it was all mocked into place and clamped. So I was absolutely sure that it's all going to fit precisely. Then I make all these welds on the outside. So all of these welds that are accessible from the outside, and that was done while everything was clamped tight to the body. Then when these welds on the outside are done, that's when I pick the body up and get some space in here and go in and make these welds that cannot be made while the thing is tight to the body. So now it's all done, and then I've been all in here shooting it full of frame shot, and like I said, that's why it looks like a bloody green mess in here from, you know, and you see it runs out on the floor. You probably, half of what you spray in there runs out, because that's just how the stuff is, and you got to shoot it like crazy in every possible direction, just every which way, and it's so well coated in there. It's to the point of absolutely getting carried away. But yeah, it ain't gonna rust. Take it from me. When I'm dead and gone, this thing, if it ends up in a junkyard somewhere, at least it ain't gonna be rusting away. But anyways, so now I'm just about ready here. I have to prepare the mating surface. Basically, I got to go inside all these holes and grind them out so they're bare metal in there, and just prepare everything to mate up. And what's going to happen next is I'm going to lower that body down to where it meets up with the rails here, and you know, I might raise the jacks up a little bit. They're about as low as they can go right now. So basically, marry the two halves together, get everything aligned. You got to, you know, take an alignment punch and you know, wiggle it around, and you clamp and you mess around, and it might take you all day to get everything. You got to make extra sure everything is clamped where it needs to be, and it's going to be accurate before you start doing any welding. And that means, you know, the tubs are going to have to be in place. The tubs here, and you got those front corner sections and that made up to the core support there, and there's one of the tubs, and the rest of the stuff's all piled. It's all piled in there. But anyways, get it back all in position. Get it clamped together. There'll be places where I'll have to put bolts. You put bolts through the, places like this you can get a clamp in there. Places like this you can get a clamp in there. Hold it tight here. And other places you can't get a clamp, you're going to need to take bolts. Put a bolt like in maybe like in a place like this here, maybe a clamp won't reach. Places like this here, a clamp is definitely not going to reach. That mates to these holes here, and you're going to have to just take bolts and put a bolt in a couple of washers and a nut and cinch them up tight. And you'll have it cinched up tight in one hole, and the hole right next door, that's where you go in and fill in a weld, and then take the bolt out, put it somewhere else, fill this one in, and you just work your way around, bolting it tight somewhere, and then go right next door, and you get it as tight as you can, and weld, bolt it up tight, go right next door, weld, and so on, and just go around, and eventually, the next time you hear from me, this whole assembly here is going to be welded to this body, and it's going to be one piece, the same way I put the back half together. And oh, by the way, here, this reinforcement, I welded that back on too. You can see there's burned paint there, and there's where I ground off some of the welds, but that real reinforcement panel is all welded back on there. And then, so yeah, that's the next step. Get this whole front subframe assembly welded to the body, and at that point, and then I'll probably finish off that middle section up in here. That's this piece there. Eventually, I gotta slather coat that all inside there, and the floor in there, and weld that, get that all in one piece, and then basically this whole body will be a contiguous structural member, unitized, and it will be strong enough so at that point I'll be able to get this rotisserie on it. That's this big blue pile of structural tubing that I've just been working around. I've just been moving that pile from one place to another, and the reason why I'm working around that pile of stuff, I had to dig that thing out of the shed like about a year ago. I knew I was going to need it. I thought I was going to need it sooner rather than later. And I realized, by the time I start, tearing this thing apart, it's too weak. You're not going to be able to put it on a rotisserie. You can't put it on a rotisserie unless it's complete. So that's the rotisserie. And the reason why I have to leave it in here and work around it is I had to dig it out of the shed, and it's like an all-day job to dig that thing out of the back of the shed. It's buried under there, so and I don't want to do that out in the dead of winter or nothing. And so there you go. That's the explanation for why I'm working around that big pile of crap and just keep moving it from one spot to another and getting it out of my way. And eventually, though, once I have, I've got the back half, the subframe rails are in there, and when these subframe rails are in and this whole thing becomes, one big complete unitized structure, it will be strong enough to be supported. The rotisserie supports it from the ends of the rails. It's going to be right here, and it'll be the same thing around the back. 4 points, and you even it up, and you get the thing so you could, rotate it like 90 degrees. I mean, you might even be able to rotate it upside down, maybe twirl it around in circles. I don't know, but I only need it to go 90 degrees, and what that will do is that's the reason why I'm not finishing out, the underside. I only have the underside finished out enough to where I'm going to, attach that rail. That's got to be finished out. But then when you get in the middle and stuff, that's not finished out. And I'm not worried about that until I can get this thing 90 degrees sideways and make it a whole lot easier instead of having to do it, from underneath upside down. So, and there's more work to be done. There's work to be done on these, on the rocker reinforcements, and there's other things that need to be finished out. Plus the whole the painting on the coatings. And it's going to be finished out with bed liner too, by the way, not just, it'll be slather coat, and then on top of the slather coat, it's going to be bed liner, and it's going to be armor plated. I did the same thing to the truck. It's absolutely, it's going to be bulletproof under there. So anyway, yeah, that's what I got going. So yeah, I don't know what else there is to talk about. That's probably about it. So, you know, next time you see me, I'll probably have this whole sub-assembly and the whole front end welded back together. That'll probably be the next update. So until then, thanks for watching so long. And by the way, Merry Christmas to you all. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bye-bye.